Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the program. It's Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. That means our college football analyst Brent Beaird joins us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. Coming to you live from outside of Dallas, Texas, here with the Orlando Guardians. We're at training camp. So I have a lot of people send messages on the Titan Tomorrow text line asking questions. So that's how it's going. Let's head and talk to Brent. Good morning, Brent. How you doing, my man?
Shane, doing well. Man, there are no games, but there's plenty going on as far as college football concerned. We've got a lot of movement, got some deadlines throughout this week. So always glad to be on with you, Shane.
Yeah, well, there were some deadlines that were yesterday and Monday. Let our listeners know what those deadlines were.
Yeah, the first one was Monday. That was the deadline for underclassmen to declare for the draft. Also, and people may have forgotten this, but there was also, starting on Tuesday, there was a 72-hour window for prospects to reconsider their decision. So we will watch that carefully to see what might go on. That's one. Number two is Wednesday, the transfer portal closed, and if players did not enter their name into the portal by that time, they will have to wait until there is a spring window of May 1 through 15th, which obviously will be after spring practice. Now, once you're in the portal, players can transfer whenever they want, but just be mindful of that deadline. So, two big deadlines this week, Shane, for the draft and also for the portal.
Yes, indeed. I failed to mention, too, the Gators losing basketball last night to the Aggies, 54-52. It was a very ugly game. I missed it. Just saw the stats and some highlights. They've already come out with the Heisman Trophy favorites for next year, 2023. Anything jump out at you?
No, fairly typical. Caleb Williams of USC, the previous winner, is number one. Drake May of North Carolina, number two. Bo Nix of Oregon at three. Michael Penix, who is a tremendous quarterback from Washington that a lot of people may not be aware of or at least forgotten about. And then Jordan Travis of Florida State, who is a true dual threat. Now, obviously, this would change multiple times over the next months. So we will keep up with it, but those are probably going to be your favorites in all the preseason magazines.
Yeah. Also, some news from the NCAA regarding the transfers. I know it's a long list of stuff. Do you want to give us the Cliff Notes version of it?
The Board of Governors. Some of this is that, and it kind of dovetails with a lot of things, that the Board of Governors, Chairman Linda Livingston, is asking Congress for three things: prohibit athletes from being deemed employees, safe harbor from antitrust, and a federal law that preempts state laws. Now, look, we're not going to play lawyer and state representative with this either, but they know they're in over their head, that they're looking for some help along that line too, and we will follow this to see where it goes. With this, I know they're trying to stop a lot of these multiple transfer situations. So the Division I Council, and we've touched on this before a little bit, it continues that they are trying to limit the number of times that you can transfer. In other words, in order to do that, you would have to have a waiver, and a lot stricter waiver than we used to. So much still going on behind the scenes with NIL and with the transfer portal.
Yes, it is. A text here on the Titan Mark text line from Josh in Mississippi asked, he asked if the Guardians practices were open. They are not, but Josh, I don't think you're out in the Dallas area. That's where everybody's holding training camp. But they are closed to the public for sure. There's no question about that. Brent, I know in the off season, Matt Hayes comes out with this power poll that he does and has some different thoughts each week on the SEC teams. This week, it was just a unique stat from the 2020 season.
Yeah, and I'll go over a few of them. The unique stat for Georgia, the number one defense in the nation, was 58th in average tackles per loss per game, which is 6. That's still rather good. At Tennessee, Tennessee rushed for 10 more touchdowns in 2022 and 2021. Also, South Carolina led the SEC in turnovers gained and turnovers lost. That's kind of strange. Florida, Gators were +8 in turnover ratio, including +5 on the road, and still lost 7 games. Shane, that really doesn't add up, does it? Because usually when you're +8 and particularly +5 on the road, you will win more games. That's unfortunate, but that is an unusual stat for the Gators.
Yeah, very, very strange. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weavy, a realtor with Caldwell Banker, M. Parrish, will provide you with fast, friendly, reliable service. Give her a call at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, you can follow Brent on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Brent, SEC, Alabama is looking for a new defensive coordinator. 2-part question for you. Who do you think they hire? And why do you think Golding left to go to Ole Miss?
Well, I'll deal with that first. I think that was a mutual situation where Golding going to Ole Miss has a lot more freedom. I think what I've been told is he'll be able to hire his staff and have more leeway as far as dealing with the defense. Look, whoever the coordinator is in Alabama, it is Nick Saban to defense. He's in all the meetings, so that doesn't change much. Whoever comes in, the possibilities, Jeremy Pruitt, who was in Alabama before, was at Tennessee. Glenn Schumann at Georgia is a possibility. And Leonard at Wisconsin, who is considered a very good, along with these other 2 D coordinators. Now, Alabama has hired Southern Miss defense coordinator Austin Armstrong, who is expected to coach the linebackers. So they have made that change. Now, we think it's just a matter of time before Bill O'Brien goes to the NFL. So that still has yet to happen. But NFL teams are interviewing. He is rumored to be connected with the New England Patriots. So that's some of what's going on. Another quick Alabama note, Demore Kennedy, linebacker, didn't play much, has entered the transfer portal. So And Tyler Harrell has two. The wide receiver that came from Louisville didn't play much, but he is in the portal too. So just a bit of Alabama news that we'll keep watching.
Yeah, I've counted the Alabama transfers, kids that have left the program. It's around 14 or 15. So
it is.
Even the best programs out there are losing players. These kids want to go have an opportunity to play somewhere.
Right.
For sure. There's no question about that. Alabama has supposedly 5 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. My biggest question to you leading into the spring, Brent, there's no way, in my opinion, that Alabama can line up week 1, and I don't even know they play, with Jalen Milroe at quarterback.
I agree with that totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think Ty Simpson is probably going to be the quarterback. They've got a freshman, Eli Holstein, from Louisiana. I don't think that Nick Saban is going to throw a freshman out there unless it's just very unusual, frankly. So, but I'm with you. Jalen Milroe is not a passer. He's a dual threat guy that has some potential. But Shane, you've either got it by now or you don't. And he played a little bit in the bowl game, and the pass he threw was terrible. And it would not shock me. I'm not saying they will, and I'm saying they won't, but if they got the right situation, that they would bring in a quarterback from the transfer portal, at least with some experience.
Yeah. I don't even consider him dual threat. He's a single threat, and that is tuck the ball and run. The Hogs have a change at the offensive coordinator position.
Yeah, this is one of the big stories of the week that a lot of people may not have heard of from. I know they know about Kendall Briles, the offensive coordinator. He's going to TCU. Now, obviously, we know the Baylor connections with Briles through his dad. Now, he did a pretty good job at Arkansas, 15th nationally in total offense. Clint Trickett, how about that? The former associated with FSU, Marshall offensive coordinator. Not saying he's going to get the job, but that's one of the names that's out there. Now, the Hogs last year, one of 3 Division I schools to average more than 230 yards rushing and more than 230 yards passing. The other 2 were Ole Miss and UCLA. So Briles continues to get some good jobs, but that is where he has gone, and he did a pretty good job at Arkansas. Shane, I don't know if that surprised you or not. I don't know if you know him well at all, but that will be interesting to see how he does at the TCU, replacing Riley, who obviously went to Clemson.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to understand why he left. I don't know what his contract's like going to TCU. TCU has a lot of money.
Yes.
I will say this, he eventually would love to be a head football coach.
Right.
And I got to think that he's thinking, you know what? I've been a part of the Big 12. My dad has some success there. It's a hell of a lot easier to win games in the Big 12 than dealing with the SEC West. So I don't know if that played a factor into it or not.
Could be.
But it could. Auburn, the Tigers have picked up a couple of transfers, and spring's right around the corner for their new football coach, Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, but sure is. Austin Keys, an Ole Miss transfer, has gone to Auburn. Also Kentucky, and this was big. Defensive lineman Justin Rogers, 35 tackles, as a junior. The spring game is April the 8th. And usually in Alabama, as it is a lot of places, it's pretty cold then. Easter is April the 9th. So that may be a time where the folks have the jackets on for that game. So, and for the media in the state of Alabama, the Auburn game is on the 8th. The Alabama game is on the 22nd. So they've got them spaced out, which is a little bit better But I will also say very quickly, Auburn is in a good job in the portal, Shane, with offensive linemen. They were woeful in offensive line depth under Gus Malzahn, and obviously, over the last few years, it just hadn't worked. But Freeze is determined that he wants to beef that up. So still a lot of unknowns, but they are getting better up front.
Yes, they are. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry and Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachland.com. Brent Beaird here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Florida Gators get some good news about Ricky Pearsall. Brent, what are your thoughts on the Florida-Utah game being on that Thursday night? I'm kind of excited about it. We haven't played a Thursday night game since my debacle in Starkville back in 1992. I can't tell you how many friends of mine that are diehards, they're so upset about this. Look, we had no control over it.
No. Shane, I love it, frankly.
Yeah, me too.
Look, the game's on the road. It gives you a window that you won't have on Saturday. And again, this is Labor Day week. So I like it. I'm excited for you. I really would love to get to that game, to be in that stadium and then in that atmosphere. But no, look, I'm with you. I think that when you're still a relatively new coach, the more publicity you can get for Billy Napier and that staff, I think the better. So, frankly, I think this will be the headline game for August 31st.
I agree 100%. I can't wait to get out to Salt Lake City, and hell, I may go a couple days early or stay late, and not come back on the team plane. I'll have to wait and see how it works with my schedule. The Gators, as we mentioned, Ricky Pearsall is coming back, which is big news.
Yes.
But they also, I don't think we talked about it last week, but we have picked up 2 big offensive linemen and one that played for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, he did. Damian George has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He played 18 games in Alabama, had 3 starts. Now, he was mostly under Doug Marrone. And I'm going to be very frank about this. Doug Marrone I didn't think it did a very good job with the Alabama offensive line. So I think Florida would do a better job with him. Shane, look, and we've talked about this over the years, even with limited experience, isn't it a plus that if you have played with an SEC team in SEC games?
Say that one more time, Brent. I was reading a text here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. My thing. Look, Damian George has had limited starts. He's only had 3, but he's played in 18 games. But my point is, Shane, isn't it an advantage if you have played with an SEC team against SEC competition?
Yeah, there's no question about that. I wouldn't really buy into. I mean, look, there's been so many good linemen that have come out of that place. He comes from a great program. Billy and them, I think they really know how to evaluate talent. So I think he can definitely help us for sure. Obviously the Jaden Rashada saga. I am so glad it's pretty much over, Brent. I think people that listen to my podcast know how I feel about NIL. I've said it from day one when it started, that I hated it, that it was going to ruin the sport. I don't know if it's ruining the sport, but it's ruining, I think, people's perception of the game. You can't fault a kid for taking money. I get all that. But I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs, probably never will. But I said last week on all the shows, I was embarrassed that whoever offered that money, as a former player and as a Gator, I was embarrassed about it because nobody should be offered that. Like 75% of the people that play on Sundays don't even make that kind of money in a 3 to 4 year period. So it's just totally ridiculous. I'm glad it's over. I don't know how it's going to end. I know he's not going to be a Gator, which is probably best. What are your thoughts on the whole deal?
Well, my first thing is that if he committed to them, he ought to keep his commitment. But again, Shane, if he doesn't want to be at Florida, he doesn't need to be at Florida.
No, and I think I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I still think it's all about money.
Yeah.
He left. He was at Miami. He left there because apparently we offered more money. And then I guarantee you, I mean, if somebody offers you more money than that, they're morons. Because
sure
I'm telling
are.
you right now, nobody is worth $300,000 or $400,000 coming out of high school. Until you prove something, you do not need any of that kind of money.
No. Listen, schools can't pay a high school quarterback more money than quarterbacks make in the NFL. And we're not talking about signing bonus. Well, we're talking about yearly salary. So look, I've been told several times that the money we're hearing is nowhere near reality. So I don't know about that. I really don't. But I think what people now look, I know Florida's got a long way to go. I know they've got a lot of rebuilding to do. But I think this is going to be a better than people think offensive line. We know they've got very good running backs. I mean, at this point, if they can, and I know everybody needs an elite quarterback, I get that. But if they can shore up this defense and they can do something about even a game manager at quarterback, they may be better than people realize. And listen, I've got to speak tonight to the Gator Club of Clay County, so I need to bring them a little bit of hope. But I think people need to look at some of these other positions and what Napier and these coaches have done to upgrade those positions. But Shane, people right now, they can't see anything in front of them except quarterback, and that's the main thing they're looking at.
No, and I get it. But again, as I like to tell all my buddies, Graham Mertz was like the second-rated quarterback. I mean, he's very similar as what Jaden Rashada was ranked when he came out of high school.
Yeah.
Just because he played and didn't play in a great offense and maybe not have great stats does not mean he won't translate into a good player for us.
Right.
Time will tell.
Right.
We're going to take a quick timeout, pay some bills, come back, finish wrapping up with Brent Beaird. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Calling Gator Nation. You're invited to be part of Gator history on Friday, February 10th for the official dedication of Steve Spurrier Way at Celebration Point Promenade in front of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Lots of dignitaries and press will be on hand to witness this historic event. And it's open to all who bleed orange and blue. It's the grand unveiling of Steve Spurrier Way. It's all happening Friday, February 10th from 5:30 to 6:15 at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Gator fans, come honor a Florida legend and the greatest Gator of all, Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier Way is officially unveiled on February 10th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the promenade in front of the Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Go Gators. We're going to head back to the Technomore Hotline. We're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Brent, the Georgia Bulldogs coming off their national championship, but good gracious, some very sad news coming out of Athens.
Yeah, terrible news, obviously, too. Devin Willock and Stafford Chandler Croy they both passed away in a car accident. Sunday morning, they had their big celebration, the parade. Willock was a sophomore, 20 years old, so our prayers go out to obviously their families and the Georgia team. Now, the good thing is Georgia, like all schools, have got counselors and they've got people on staff who can deal with the players in situations like this. But this is tragic, but you could be going through this grief. But we do need to let folks know about some important stuff that's happened also on the field, because that's what we do. A.D. Mitchell, I'm curious if you're surprised with some of these things I'm about to mention. A.D. Mitchell has entered the transfer portal. He's a loss, frankly. Had a touchdown catch and the 4 recent playoff games. Now, they did get Dominic Levitt from Missouri, Ra Thomas from Mississippi State, so I think they'll be fine. And Ladd McConkey is also coming back. He played a big role in the receiving situation. And Dominic Blaylock, remember that name, Shane? He didn't play a whole lot. He's got 2 years left at this point. So, and also Broderick Jones, Warren McClendon have declared for the draft. But Shane, man, a lot of good, not so good of that Georgia receiving crew.
Yeah, a couple of those are very surprising, no question about it. LSU, guess what? They got dudes transferring as well.
Oh yeah. Listen, it's happening with all these teams. Xavier Carter, defensive end, in the transfer portal, he played in 18 games in his 2 seasons. Cardell Thomas is entering the transfer portal 2 years of eligibility. Now, they've had guys who have joined: cornerback J.K. Johnson from Ohio State, cornerback Deuce Chestnut from Syracuse, and they've got an edge rusher, Ovi Ogufo from Texas, too. Now, I still say, Shane, did you catch this in the notes we share? Expected returning starters, and anything can happen. But this is for LSU. 10 on offense, 5 on defense. Look, Shane and I have always said LSU has dudes, and they do. But I can tell you, now, he did a good job this year, Brian Kelly did, in getting this team to Atlanta. And Shane, I'm not saying they'll win the West, but I think they'll be very good next year too, or this coming year too.
Yeah, they turned into a decent football team for sure. Failed to mention too, Walker Howard, who was a highly recruited quarterback that the Gators got in the mix. You know, he transferred out of LSU, has now committed to Ole Miss. I know Billy Napier had a great relationship with him, and that's who they wanted before all the Jaden Rashada. When this kid committed to LSU, that's kind of when they went off on a different tangent. But boy, it would have been nice to have Walker Howard. I thought he was the better quarterback personally over Rashada in my eyes, but he's gone. He's chose to go play for Lane Kiffin. Mississippi State has a lot of turnover going on with Zach Arnett taking over. Some of his, I'm a little surprised at who he's hired as his offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Kevin Barbay is the new offensive coordinator, they'll still throw the ball, but I guess, Shane, when I don't understand here, maybe you can give some light to this. Now, he was at Central Michigan, App State, and when he was at App State, they threw the ball 43% of the time. Certainly a drop in what they've got, and Will Rogers coming back. Look, I guess coaches want to put their mark on programs, but I'm with you. I'm a little surprised that they went away from the air raid because that's what these players know, and that's what they were recruited for.
Yeah, and that Kevin Barbe guy was actually under Jim McElwain at Central Michigan, but he was also here at Florida. He was like the director of football ops. He wasn't a coach when McElwain was the Gators head football coach. He was just on the staff as like a administrative assistant type guy. So we'll see, because Bubba Spurrier, there was talks earlier about him taking over, but obviously he's moved on and now the OC at Tulsa. So give us some news and notes before we get you out of here, Brent.
Let me mention, kind of go back to what you talked about with Walker Howard. Now, people may have forgot this, but Jackson Dart is back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you certainly got good competition here. Now, Shane, I may be off here. I'm not sure Walker Howard may not be better than Jackson Dart.
Well, I've seen just some tape of Walker Howard from high school. I think he's a really good player. I really thought Florida could sway him to come to school there, but
right.
He's going to Ole Miss, so we wish him well.
Yeah, and also with Ole Miss, Quincy McGee is transferring. So McGee, he's transferring to Ole Miss. Lord, he was 420 pounds at one time at this point, but he has obviously lost some too. And we'll keep our eye on this Ole Miss team, and they sure need a rebound from the way they ended the season. Tennessee's lost a quarterback, Tavian Jackson, as moving along, but Joe Milton is going to be the guy, and their five-star Nico, whose name I have trouble pronouncing, forgive me for that, Shane, but they made a big deal out of him in the supposedly $9 million that they were going to pay him, so that's going to be very interesting. Also, I do want to mention real quick about some ACC notes that dovetail into the SEC. Garrett Riley obviously is going to Clemson from TCU, so that's a big pickup.
That is one of the best hires, in my opinion, in college football.
No question.
I think Dabo's kind of gotten behind the new age of football. And I think Garrett Riley is extremely creative, like his brother Lincoln. And I think the quarterback they got there is very talented, and he's going to fit that type of system very well. So, look, I know a lot of people are high on FSU. I understand why, but I'm not a believer in them. I still think they're going to have to go through Clemson, and I think Clemson's going to be much better with this type of offense.
Well, I agree. And listen, they've got some really good players coming in. This Peter Woods, a defensive tackle who's a freshman, Alabama wanted him badly. But he is at Clemson, and Cade Klubnik is who Shane is talking about, that really has played well, has come on. Now, some FSU and Miami stuff I want to mention real quick. Malik McClain has entered the transfer portal. He is a wide receiver. Shane, what about Patrick Surtain Sr., 11-year NFL veteran, also South Florida high school coach, is the new defensive backs coach at Florida State?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was a good player in the league. Obviously his son is playing, I think, with the Broncos, went to Alabama,
right.
but won some championships down there. I think it was American Heritage, where it's another one of those schools where they just recruit all the players. So I don't put a lot into it, but I mean, we'll see, how he does out on the, college football. It'll be interesting to see the hours you have to put into it, how Patrick Surtain handles that, because it's going to be a shock,
right,
to how he was dealing with in high school football.
Oh, yeah, I bet. And also in Miami, their quarterback coach, Frank Ponce, is going to App State, as a matter of fact, and Jake Garcia is in the transfer portal. Boy, that that quarterback room in Miami at one point they had Tyler Van Dyke, Jake Garcia, Ja'Cory Brown, Jaden Rashada for a while, Emory Williams. Rashada obviously flipped. Garcia is going to the portal, and their starting center, Ja'Kiah Clark, is also leaving. So, look, I know all about and understand all about the NIL at Miami, but I can tell you on the field, and I know you picked up on this, Shane. They've got a lot of work to do. I mean, in my opinion, they've got as much work to do or more than Florida does.
Oh, I agree 110% with that, Brent. They got a lot of problems. Brent, good stuff as always. We appreciate your time, and we will talk to you next week, my man.
And Shane, if I may, one more time, looking forward to speaking to the Clay County Gator Club tonight. We'll hash all this out, and Shane, always appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MRO hotline. Before we get out of here, Comfort Temp is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Give Comfort Temp Heating and Air a call at 352-376-2366. This day in sports in 1998, the Boston Celtics retired Robert Parrish's number 00, and that's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Rose Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Appreciate everybody listening today. Yes, we are in training camp full force, so bear with us the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, I should say. We got training camp, and then we start up our season the week after the Super Bowl. So excited for that. You can follow all the Guardians, Orlando Guardians, and the XFL on all the social media platforms as well. Have a great day, folks, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.